Hi everybody, welcome back to the Model Me channel. I hope you're excited for today because this has been something that's been brewing in me for a while. And if you know me, you know I've been talking about this topic probably all year, and it has been something that I myself am still walking through. I'm definitely still trying to understand and research and get to know myself in the process of this topic. If you've never met me, hi, my name's Natasha. This is Model Me. modelme is a well-being business. Our mission is to help people correct negative thought patterns and behavior, really to help you be the most authentic you. And I have gone through such a journey myself in understanding that in order to be the person that I really want to be my authentic self, you know, when you know who you are, you know what's possible for your life. And I think in order to get to that place where you know who you are, you have to face a lot of things that, quite frankly, are really unpleasant, that we don't want to face. But it's really important that we do, because that's how we get through. And those were kind of thoughts that I kind of had already. I've already been somebody that's been on a bit of a journey of trying to understand my thoughts and my emotions and how they can take control of me, and how literally they can change my whole day and my whole week and really affect the way that I feel about myself, about my business, about the things I do in my life. And I think that there's got to be something said for how much your emotions can really just totally derail you. They can send you from a place where you feel steady and calm and pretty much like you know what you're doing, to a place of total destruction and feeling distraught. And you know, maybe I'm not talking about you, you know, maybe you're sitting here going, do you know what, Tash, that was really northern, do you know what, Tash, well, do you know what, Tash, I'm cool, I'm good. I have got my emotions in check. I am pretty steady going. I never go too high and I never go too low. I have someone really special in my life who has really tried to teach me that, you know, that they never go too high and they never go too low. And I'm like, but what? I love getting excited. I love being excited. I love jumping up and down when you find out something really joyful, and you know, whether it's celebrating for my friends or it's celebrating a victory that we've had in my business or in my family, or, you know, just in life. God is so good, and I feel like I'm always witnessing and seeing so much victory. Even when there's real kind of trauma and stuff going on, it's that joy that you know that exists, and you can still celebrate even those small wins. This same person also has a really great phrase, which is never get tired of winning. And you know, he has said that to me for so many years, and that's a mentality that I think I've really had to try and understand what that means, you know, for myself, but also just as a you know, in context for without me being involved. So this never too high, never too low thing, I think, is a really beautiful place to start, because I think this concept, for me, the way I understand it is, you know, when you go too high and you get really high because of really good things in your life, you have an ability to go really, really low. And I don't know about you, but since I'm here, we'll talk about me and I'll be the example. If you're anything like me, or you've had those moments where, you know, you've been really, really down, I have also recognized that actually I do have an ability to be really high and to be really low. So today's episode is really going to be about, a few things, but probably thoughts, emotions, and really managing seasons of change as kind of a subtext of that. I think that it is just really important, what I've learned over time. It's really important to understand where certain thoughts come from. And it all starts with a thought, right? It doesn't all start with a thought, but I'll go into that. It starts from a place where your thought, I have this written on my wall, your thoughts are like a train, they take you somewhere. So imagine, you've got a thought. If you've seen Westworld, for context, they have this train in Westworld, and whenever I think of this phrase, I think of Westworld, because I imagine that little train going into that western town, and you know, when you see it from a bird's eye view and you've got all these beautiful brown mountains around it, all the dusky. Oh, it's so nice. If you haven't watched Westworld, it's a bit gory, but it's brilliant. So good. Fantastic writing, fantastic acting. When you watch people act in that, it kind of makes you think. It makes me think. I acted for 18 months, and it makes me think I would love to be doing something like that, exploring and bringing that character to life. Anyway, we're not talking about acting. Let me go back. So your thoughts are like a train, they take you somewhere. So your thoughts, imagine your thought is sat on this train and it comes into your mind and it has an opportunity, it gets here and it has an opportunity to change your whole day because of what you decide to do with that thought. However, what I am learning and what I have been learning is that actually I have an opportunity to nip the thought in the bud here. Before it even starts its journey, before it leaves the station, you nip it in the bud, you stop, nope, we're not doing that. Because you start to understand that these thoughts, sometimes they come along and they get to the front of you. Oh, already your mind is tilting, your head is spinning, you changed your thoughts, you don't know what you're going to do next. And before you know it, everything's unraveled. And a lot of the time, those thoughts can be complete lies, they're fabricated, they're stuff that you have imagined in your head. It is not the reality, it is not the truth. And I think personally that we live in a world that is consuming us with like, you should think this and you should think that. And I think we've got to be careful what we're listening to. And I mean, I always talk about this. If you've just met me, then hello, I always talk about this. And it's, you've got to check what you're listening to. I'm talking music, films, you know, the people's books that you read. I'm actually going to recommend 2 books today because, yeah, it's time. But who do you have around you? First of all, people. You know, you can't control every living environment that you're in. Like, you might not be able to change or control who you work with, but it's understanding how you let that affect you. They might have had thoughts that are like trains that drop into your mind, and you have to make a decision and say, do you know what, that might be a thought, but I am not going to let that come. I'm not going to let that even start to leave the station. In fact, I'm not even going to let it into my mind. It's not going to simmer, it's not going to sit, it's not going to stew. I'm going to get rid of it. But you've got to be aware of who you have around you, the truth of who is around you, because then you can start to understand that person complains quite a lot, and actually that person is quite negative. And actually, I think I'm seeing that the way that they think, talk, behave, act, that actually has a negative impact on me. So a real example of this is not necessarily so negative, but a real example of this for me is that I try really hard not to swear. I gave up swearing a couple of years ago, and you know, sometimes I slip up, I still say the odd, not any of the gruesome words. Gruesome. They're gruesome to me because I used to F and blind all the time. That's the truth. Like, and I'm not saying like if you swear like you know that I don't like you. It's not that. This is a personal conviction, a personal thing that I've decided, because when I started doing Model Me events, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. One is Model Me events, right? I personally don't want to swear on camera when we're delivering an event, because that video could go anywhere. Anybody could see this, and I don't want to all of a sudden make it unavailable to a certain group of people because, you know, they're too young to hear that kind of swearing. Or, you know, I don't want certain people that maybe don't swear, I don't want them to think, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to that girl because she F's and blinds all the time. I don't want to eliminate anybody from having access to what we do as a business. The second thing is I'm an auntie. I have 2 biological nieces who are just a dream come true, and I love them so much. They're 5 and 2 years old, and I don't want to hear them swear, and I don't want them to think swearing's okay and that you can use it all the time, because I personally don't think it's okay for kids to swear, and I don't think they should be. And I say biological auntie because, you know, 2 of my best friends have kids, like loads of my close friends in church, like people have children around all the time, and I don't want to be somebody that the parents are kind of like, I'm not going to let, you know, her name my kids or baby. I don't know. That's the thought process for me. So that's why I choose not to swear. So it's not to say that, you know, you shouldn't swear, but, you know, you need to have a conversation with yourself and ask, this is the conversation I had with myself. What does me swearing achieve? And I ask myself those kind of questions very often, in the sense that I might be sharing a story. Like, I have a story about body dysmorphia. We just did an event on body image and identity. And there are certain parts of that body dysmorphia story that I don't share, because I ask myself, who does that serve? Who does that really help? And so the reason I share all of that with you, and hopefully it makes sense, is because you've got to be aware of who you're hanging around. And I think for me, what I'm understanding is that if I'm around somebody that swears and F's and blinds all the time, doesn't mean that I can't hang around with them. They might be the most amazing, beautiful person, but I do need to watch how that impacts my mind, and then how I might come away from that conversation with that person and I might let a swear word slip. And I've noticed, and I've done that, and I've gone, oh, I need to refrain. I need to pull myself back and just check for a minute. Is that the kind of person that I want to be? Do I want to be swearing all the time? And again, this is not me passing judgment. This is just me being someone that I feel very responsible for the voice that I've got, for the platform that I run, for the auntie that I am. And in those areas of my life, I very much try and live my life with a mentality of how you do anything is how you do everything. And so if I was going to swear in my personal life, or, you know, just even with like maybe when I'm with my boyfriend or my friends, personally for me, I choose not to, because I am the kind of person that I am pretty similar across the board. Like, I just left my waitressing job, and what you would hear and know about me as a waiter is that, you know, I kind of turn up to my friendship gatherings in pretty much the same energy as I would at work. And obviously you're different because you're in a working space, of course, but it wouldn't be like I was wearing a different mask and, oh, let me just change into a different skin. Like, and I say that because I used to do that. I used to have such a facade. I would turn up to work and be one person, and then I would go to other spaces and felt like I was someone else. In fact, that was pretty much my whole teenage life. When I went to high school, is I was like Natasha, who was, well, I was always Tash then, never Natasha. You know, I was Tash, I was bubbly, I was friendly, I was friends with everybody. Like, I loved studying, I loved working hard, so I got on well with my teachers and I was on side with them. And then I would go home and I would be a hermit, and I would sit in my room, wouldn't talk to my sisters or my mom. I would like avoid them at all costs. And I think there probably was an element looking back where I just needed to refuel, and I needed to just be by myself, because I'm definitely like, what do they call it? An introverted extrovert. I need time by myself to refuel. I'm like that now, and I probably was then and didn't know it. And at the same time, I think I was really argumentative with my family. I was not the person I am today. Thank you, God. Trust me, some of my friends really laugh. Even this weekend, some of my friends were laughing, like, I just can't picture you like that. And I was like, my family will remember. And so, you know, we just thank God that my family have got grace for me. And it is quite amazing, isn't it, that you can have people in your life that have literally witnessed you go through so much change. And I'm really grateful, because I know it's probably not been easy for my sisters. I don't know if they're watching my podcast, but it's probably not been easy for my sisters to like be okay with, not be okay with it, but like, oh wow, Tasha's really different now. So let's discuss perhaps other things that can impact your thoughts. Yes, people is a massive, massive part of that. And I myself, I'm really impacted by the people that I have around me. And I know that I am quite impressionable sometimes, but I also know that actually I can be the person that's influencing others. And so it's just finding that balance, and just choosing who you've got around you, like who you're going to confide in. Like, I think I used to confide in people that I shouldn't have, not because they weren't great, it's just that I didn't have that depth of relationship with them. So I try to be more careful right now with who I share certain things with, and, you know, who I confide in. And actually there are certain things in my life that are extremely private. They are extremely things I just keep extremely close to my chest, and I don't share them really with anybody, maybe like one or two people. And, you know, I have a different relationship now in my faith, and so my faith is really important to me. And I think that there are certain things that, you know, are just between like you and God, and you might be sitting there and thinking, well, I don't have faith like that. And so what I mean also is, a real life example is maybe just things between you and your friend, or you and your mum, or you and your partner. And it's like, sometimes like those confined, close relationships are so precious, and things only should stay in that space. You don't need to overshare with everybody. And again, I feel like I'm exposing so much of who I used to be. But another thing that I used to do was just overshare. And that actually was my experience with social media, very much so, like, I don't know, 10 years ago when it came out. And I'll never forget when Facebook Live was a thing, and I was like on my phone, and I was like sharing everything that I was doing. And yeah, there was another one called, what was it called? Periscope. Was it Periscope? Periscope. I remember I went to Periscope and I made a smoothie, and I had thousands of people that had watched my Periscope live, and I was like, what is this? But I think it was the algorithm that really helped me out. It wasn't that I was making an amazing smoothie. I just think the algorithm was helping me out, and I was just honestly, I was just being myself though. I really was just expressing, you know, the certain things that I was doing, and oh, it's so funny. Anyway, so funny. So other things that maybe you can kind of start to look at are things like music that you listen to or books that you read. And music that you listen to for me is a really personal one for me. Like, I actually don't listen to any kind of like, I suppose, music that is trendy right now, or even, and I'm very careful with even music that I listened to back in the day. Like, I love 90s R&B and hip hop, like love it, but sometimes it's a little bit too sexual. And yeah, I'm living a certain life right now where I don't want to have certain thoughts and emotions, kind of, I suppose, I don't want certain music to remind me of certain thoughts and emotions, but I also, I think it's really important what you listen to in terms of like how it can impact what you then think. And I can say the same, there's certain, you know, musicians out now. I actually said this at an event 2 years ago at modelme, and I think a few people in the room were a bit like, didn't know how to take it, but I sometimes like, you know, Drake is obviously a huge musician, and I've got nothing personal against Drake and his music. I love his music, but sometimes I think, why would I want to listen to that often? Because sometimes the way that he talks about women is extremely derogative. And if I'm trying to be a woman out here that's like empowered and strong and brave, and also like, I'm quite traditional in my thinking with certain things about relationships, romantic relationships, and I listen to some of the things that Drake says and I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. So, I mean, that's just a food for thought kind of thing to just leave there. Should we talk about books? Let's talk about books. So, I have 2 books I'm going to recommend today. And the reason why I thought these 2 books were really maybe books that I could share, that maybe like resources and tools, because I really want to share things that, 1, have helped me, 2, that are helping me right now. So it's not just like a past thing, but like something I'm walking through right now. And I think that when it comes to our emotions, they really can dictate the way we end up living our life. And I think something that Shelley Collins, who, if you've not met through modelme, you'll meet her soon, something she always has taught me is that you are not your feelings, you are not your emotions. And so I want you to think of yourself, you are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body. This is something that Shelley has taught me. So I am a spirit, I have a soul, that's your mind, will, and emotions, and I live in a body. That's, you know, my physical human flesh. And so something might happen to me and immediately I'll feel it, right? We actually did an event a couple of weeks ago on facing your fears and what's stopping you. And Shelley was sharing in the event with us how actually when fear happens, what's the first thing? Do you feel it or do you think about it? The first thing is normally you feel it, right? And so then you start to connect it to the thinking and why am I scared? What is this that I'm scared about? But normally like your body is very reactive, and you know, we live in a body. We've got to remember where we live. It's incredible what our bodies tell us about ourselves. Like, you know, if you're a woman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When your period is coming, your body lets you know. Like, I have things that will tell me my period is coming like a week before, you know? And so I kind of know a week before without checking on one of my apps or my calendars. Like, I know a week before my period is coming. The body is an incredible thing. Like, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I can walk into spaces and I can feel the spirit in the room and I'm like, whoa. And that is, I personally believe, because we're spiritual beings, but also because there's like an atmosphere in the room that you can pick up, and your body is so sensitive to those things. So I just don't, honestly, there's so many things I could say about this, but I want to try and keep this podcast a bit more short and sweet than maybe a couple of the previous ones. And like, I know there's going to be a part 2, so don't worry. But when we think about, you know, your thoughts and your emotions and how you can get them in check with yourself, there's a few things from 2 different books, ta-da, that I wanted to share with you that have massively impacted me. And one is, I'm reading this one now, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess by Dr. Caroline Leaf, and Burnout is a book by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, who are, I think they could be twin sisters. definitely sisters anyway. And this is actually a book I've read. I've had it for about 2 years now, and I've read it kind of over and over. There are a couple of things that I've just read repeatedly because I just really wanted to learn. And every time I sit and talk about this book, I always think I've got to read it again because it's so impactful. There's some things in it that I think are a little bit like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but the science in it is absolutely, spot on, incredible. It's funny actually, they're both very scientific books, and I am not really a science girl. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, Natasha, like, I get it, you're really into your science, like, I'm not. I actually didn't love science at school. It was one of those subjects that I think I didn't even like do very well in. I mean, it was a long time ago, so who cares, right? Who cares? But I think before I begin to talk about those two books, let me talk about one thing that has really impacted my thoughts and emotions and literally been probably a firm foundation of why I've managed to start to get my thoughts and emotions in check. And yes, guys, I'm about to talk about rest. Yes, we love rest. Rest is such an incredible thing that has been gifted to us that I really believe the world is trying to strip us away from so much. And honestly, I just really think that when you don't have rest in your life, and again, this is me talking from experience from way back in the day, it was a few years ago, when I never used to take a day off, I never used to take time to rest, have thinking time. And when I say thinking time, I mean, I did this last week totally spontaneously, but it was beautiful. My phone died and I decided, all right, I'm going to keep my phone off. And I think I don't know where I'd been. I've been out all day. I got home, I cleaned my room, and I decided to just start journaling about things that were going on in my head. And last week was a big week because actually I have quit my waitressing job. So this year has been pretty intense in the sense that I have worked 2 days a week as a waiter, 2 days a week as an event manager, and then at any moment that I've got left through the week, so normally like a day and a half, I have been working on my business. So it's been a really, packed year. We have done events still regularly with modelme. Nothing with modelme has actually kind of gone backwards. Like, if anything, the business has grown, and that is really incredible and was actually my priority if I was going to take on this event manager role, which I just personally thought I couldn't turn down because it was such an amazing opportunity to put on a conference, and oh my gosh, so good. But yeah, I got to a point in summer where I was like, I actually need to quit my job. I need more time. And financially, I am trusting and praying that somewhere, somehow, modelme gets funding. We might look for investment, but I'm not going to do that quite yet. And yeah, I would love to have that conversation if any of you are watching this going, you know, I've just done that as a startup. I've looked into funding, I've looked into investment. I would love to have a conversation with you because I think, one, it's something people never talk about, and two, we never talk about it enough, to be honest, and especially when you're creatives. You could even say maybe when you're women, you know, we don't talk about money enough. And I just think, especially culturally in London, in the UK, like, money is like such a dirty topic, and I don't understand why. Like, we live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and people find it so difficult to talk about money. So I share all of that with you because it's like, last week was the first week where I was, you know, not working at my waitressing job, and I have so much more to say on that, but I'm going to talk about that another time because I want to keep the short and, well, not short and sweet, because short and sweet for me is like 5 minutes, do you know what I mean? I'm a long form content kind of girl. Long form, I love long form. Welcome, this is long form content for you. So when I talk about rest, you know, last week I got to turn my phone off, sit with my journal and just write and think and dream and have visions and look at my room. And, you know, if you could see the wall that is behind you, what you would know is that I have like big letters and words written. I've got, you know, take the opportunity written on my wall. I've got, have you been knocking? And that's this idea of like, you know, there's a door in front of you and actually you've got to knock. You can't just expect the door to like swing open and somebody go, hello, here's your perfect brand partnership. Like, that's not going to happen, right? You've got to go and knock on the door, and if the door doesn't open, trust that it's not your door, or trust that actually that's not time for my door yet. Actually, let me go and try another door and see which door is going to take me down the path that I'm supposed to go to. And I think we live in this world now where it's like people are scared to knock, they're scared to take an opportunity, they're scared to like maybe do something different or do something that goes against the grain. And I just want to encourage you, like, be brave, like be bold, be brave, like ask yourself, what if it does work, you know? And I think I was talking to my sister this weekend about something, and you know, she was like, oh, what next? And I said, no. It's not about what next. It's about even if. Even if the door doesn't, I'll continue with my door analogy, right? Even if the door doesn't open, I'm still going to go. Even if the door isn't my door, I'm still going to continue down my path. Even if the door opens, I go through that opportunity that I thought was going to work out and be my deal breaker. Even if it doesn't work out, I am still going to persevere. I am still going to be persistent. I am still going to continue. I am still going to work towards that vision, that dream that I believe that I've been called to do. And I just really feel that we live in a world that, especially for creatives, it's so demoralizing at times, and it's so suffocating, and there is just no support for people. And that is really why we exist at Model Me, because I want people to know that, you know, it all starts from a mental point of view, right? It all starts in your mind. Like, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're completely right. I love that phrase. It's so simple and it's so true. And I want people to know that actually there are habits, toxic thoughts, behaviors that you have. You know, Caroline Leaf talks about this so much in her book, and it's like, you actually can change those things. You actually can change those things. And I think what I'll do is I'll just share a couple of things from Caroline's book, but I just really want to encourage you. I mean, I definitely want to talk more about rest. You know, this revelation that I had about rest through COVID is the reason that right now I am able to sit here and say that the last year I've been able to understand my thoughts, my emotions, where they lead to, how they stop me, how they block me, how they nearly ruin relationships of mine, friendships. Oh my gosh, so many things, like, because of my thoughts and my emotions. And it's really important to not react when you are in a place. I mean, it's a very real example, but you're in a place where you're hurt and you're emotional. Do yourself a favor and take a minute and say, actually, I'm not going to apply in this moment. And that has been really difficult for me to do, but also absolutely life-changing, to just take a minute and stop and say, where is this thought coming from? What is the root of this thought? And I'm reading this book by Caroline Leaf, and she is, I mean, it's an incredible book that is actually quite a hard read. I picked it up last year. Like I said, I'm not sciencey, and you know, she's talking about neuroscience, guys, and it's like, what? So I actually put it down. But recently I went on holiday. It was wonderful. I had such a good time, and highly recommend Sifnos. Yes, so good. It's a Greek island, by the way. We'll talk about that another day. But I read this on holiday and I got so into it. And then guess what? I got home, life happened, was finishing my job, had a crazy schedule. So I haven't really been reading it much. I've been reading other stuff, but not this book. I picked it up last week and it just really was like, wow, I need to read about this. Last week I learned about thoughts, more about thoughts. And then this week, last night, I'm not joking, I picked up this book and it gave me to the point where like I actually nearly cried about it today, because I thought, wow, the way that, and I have to say it like this because otherwise it doesn't make sense, but the way that I feel that God can just come in and give you a sign, give you an inkling, a reminder, you know, a confirmation of what you've been thinking or experiencing. Like, I had a dream nearly about 10 days ago with a very clear vision in it that I didn't know what it meant. And I asked 2 different people about it, and they both said the exact same thing and exact same words. And last night I picked up this book and she used that exact word, and it was basically about being a surgeon. And then in this book, I mean, I can't even believe the intricacy of what she's talking about, and how the dream that I had last week, I mean, it's actually, I'm still speechless about it. Like, so I can't go there yet. We'll go there, don't worry. So when we talk about thoughts, I just thought I'd read a couple of things to you, because I didn't know this and it has blown my mind. So the question is, what is in a thought? So the mind is made up of trillions and trillions of thoughts. A thought is a real physical thing that occupies mental real estate in your brain and mind. And a thought is built into the brain as you use your mind. That is as you think, feel, and choose. So this is how I see it in my mind. You've got your mind and you've got your brain, okay? The mind has got all these millions and millions, trillions and trillions of thoughts. And as you think and you feel and you choose, those thoughts become very real constructs in your brain. And they affect the way that you live, the way that you think, the way that you behave, the way that you choose, the way that you do things, the way that you love people, the way that you don't love people. That all comes from the mind, the thoughts. And there was another thing that she spoke about that really blew my mind, which is all the cells in your body are attached to thoughts that have trillions and trillions of emotions and memories. And so you can get like a feeling, and this is how you can make yourself sick, because you, and I mean like unwell, you can have a feeling in your body, like your cells can pick up something. And again, this is connected to your body. What I said earlier, you walk into a room, you pick something up. And that also, I think, can be connected to fear. I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist and I'm not, trying to make up my own science here, but I'm just trying to share how it's been revealing to me, okay? And so you could walk to a room, maybe pick something up, maybe all of a sudden, your cells in your body, remember, your cells, this is science, she says it, not me, okay? Your cells are attached to trillions and trillions of memories and thoughts and connected. So if you've been down a dark alley as a young girl and a guy followed you, all of a sudden, what does that do? That's fear in your body. That becomes very real. So you might be down a dark alley at nighttime and all of a sudden what happens is fear comes. Why? Because your cells have memories. Your cells can remember when you walked down that dark alley and that guy followed you last time. And like, just a side note to the men that watch this, like, I've actually told a guy in the street before, I said, you've got to be careful what you're doing because you are freaking a girl out right now. Because he was walking so close to me. It was so unnecessary. It was nighttime. He didn't need to be walking that close to me. I told him to back off. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Like, he had no idea. He was living in his own world, so unconscious of what was going on around him, And so as men in today's world, we've got to look out for the women around us, whether you know them or not. As women in today's world, we've got to look out for the men around us in a very different, real way. But we are connected to different things, as people. Our brains are different. The more I look at it, the more I realize men and women are completely different. And we need each other, I'm so sick of this world telling you don't need men. Like, girl, you need a man, okay? And I don't mean a man that's like, going to be your hubby. I mean, you need men in your life that are going to speak into you, that are going to help you, that are going to encourage you. I do believe that you should have women first that you can find in and talk to, unless obviously it's your husband or your dad or your brother, for example. But yeah, that's a side note. But a real example of how being in a place can actually affect and make you feel fear because your cells are connected. I mean, that blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind because it can also connect to, like, that's how sometimes if you feel a little bit off. I had this last week. I felt a little bit off. I felt a little bit gross and I thought, oh, maybe I should just go for a nap. I was like, no, I'm going to get out of the house. I'm going to go for some fresh air and I'm going to go get on with my day. Guess what? I was completely fine. So I started to ask myself, was that my cells? Was that my mind? Was that my emotions? Sometimes you just have to run through it. Not all the time, obviously, but sometimes. So try and gauge that for yourself. This is what I'm going to leave you with, okay? I've been talking about checking your circle for years, okay? Because I have had real examples of people around me that have impacted, changed my life. I've had mentors come and sew into me when frankly I didn't deserve to be sewed into, you know what I mean? And I always think about, some of my closest friends that I've still got now, and I just think, wow, like, I'm so grateful that you never left me. It must have been so frustrating, like, oh gosh. And there's, mentoring is kind of something that I do so naturally in my life. I love doing that for people. And, there's someone in my life that I really love that I've kind of started to, share certain things with. And I suppose in a sense, I can see sometimes it's slightly like mentoring. And I said to one of my mentors, I said, oh my gosh, I said, do you know what makes me realize how incredible you are more and more is because I remember how I used to be. I remember that I would have this conversation, have my mentoring call, and then I'll go and do the same stupid stuff over and over again. But what I want to teach you and share with you that this book has really released me from is that there are things in this book that she's talking about how, she calls it the neurocycle, I think. I mean, yeah, she's created this she's created this thing, okay? She's created this program. And, she's talking about how, when you do mind management actually you can direct your mind in action, and you can change your brain and mental space for the better, and you can get rid of toxic thoughts and build good, healthy thoughts and habits. And I think more than ever, we have just got to be people that know and understand, actually, I am not the person I used to be. My past is my past. I can draw a line in the sand and I can move from it. I don't have to let my past live with me, be weights on my shoulders like bricks that I have to carry around all the time. That's not the kind of person I have to be. I can let go of my past. I can change. I can move on. And I really want to encourage you with that. Because honestly, that has been something that I've been going through, I'm still going through, and I'm working on. And I just think that we have got to get to know our thoughts, our emotions. We've got to understand how they're connected, how they can help us live out our behaviour. And I hope today that I've shared some things that impact you and make you think about what maybe you might be able to change in your life, and maybe those thoughts and emotions that you might want to start changing. We are definitely going to do a workshop that goes deeper into this in the future. So yeah, I can't wait to do that with you guys, because honestly, I'm being so impacted by what I'm reading from a scientific point of view, and it's reminding me of completing your stress cycle from the burnout book. But I'm going to talk about that next time, okay? I'm going to talk about that next time. And right now, I'm just going to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being a part of the Model Me journey, the Model Me mission, whether you are, physically joining our events or you're just connecting with us online. I have some really, really exciting things that we're going to launch, in-person things outside of London, and not just in the UK as well. And I am really, really looking forward to sharing this with you guys, because we are not just a London-centric business. I've never wanted to be just a London-centric business, but you've got to start from somewhere, right? So I pray you have an amazing day whenever you listen to this, and that it's impacted you in some way. And again, any questions, any thoughts, any feelings around what I've said, I would love to hear them, and I would love to discuss it with you. And also just keep an eye for what we've got coming, because a lot more to come. Thank you so much.